Hey guys, welcome back to BackToFrankBlack.com. I'm Dirk from the Pop Culture Network, and we're kicking off a series of episode reviews of my favorite TV show of all time, hopefully yours too, and that's why you're here, Millennium. This was the other show from Chris Carter who brought you the X-Files, and, quite frankly, I think it was better. But today we're going to kick off this series looking at a bunch of episodes that center around the character known as Legion. Legion, pure evil from the Bible. The episode we're going to start with today is called The Judge. And the Judge kicks off with a quote from Moby Dick. The visible world seems formed in love. The invisible spheres were formed in fright. This episode is about a man known as the Judge who brings about his own sort of vigilante justice, and it does so in the most horribly gruesome way you can possibly imagine. If you like bloody, dismembered digits and extensions and pieces of the human body, this is the episode for you, because you're going to get plenty of that within this episode as he sends out his justice. Now, let's break down the episode a little bit. You get Marshall Bell, who I always knew as that creepy guy from Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. But, he is in this episode, and he is the Judge. And he is basically one of the few actors in Hollywood who could probably go toe-to-toe with Lance Henriksen. In fact, the scenes that they have together are so great, it's a shame it only happened for one episode. But Marshall Bell brings something so wonderful to the role, because when he becomes the Judge, one of the things he does, kind of his, trademark, is he puts this hood over his head as he pronounces sentence. And with a different actor in a different situation, this could be so incredibly goofy. It could come across as something from Full Moon Entertainment. But instead, he does it so well and so perfectly, it's actually pretty scary. And he uses guys like this, ex-cons, to go out and perform his type of vigilante justice, which again is bloody and terrible and makes it wonderful to watch at the same time. Now, the Judge eventually gets arrested for everything that happens. He gets taken to jail, but since he's not the one doing the crimes, it's the other guys, they have to let him go. But before he leaves, he has a conversation with Frank Black. And in this conversation, they draw a comparison and a contrast, I guess, if you will, between the Judge and Frank Black. And one of the key things that they point out here is how the Judge, even though he's trying to do good, is being corrupted by this pure evil, in a sense. Frank Black is trying to do good, and he's trying not to be corrupted by the evil. So you kind of get this playoff between the two of them. And again, Marshall Bell, such a great actor. It's a shame, only that one episode. But the comparison and contrast between the two, you begin to realize, has kind of been threaded along through the entire episode as we went along. One of the things that is immediately noticeable when you go back and watch is that if you take a look at the Judge's farmhouse, it's dark, it's dreary, there's always clouds and fog, and there are hogs out in the mud, and it's kind of nasty and dirty. And then you got Frank's nice yellow house. So pretty and wonderful and pure, and that's where his family lives, and it's just a nice, wonderful place. So you really get a sense of that contrast and comparison that they're working on with the two of them. But going back to the Judge, he says to Frank that he would like to offer him a job, for Frank to come work for him, because Frank can see the evil that's in people's hearts. There's something that Frank is able to do to tap into that evil within other people, and the Judge wants to use Frank's gift to further his sense of justice. Frank, of course, doesn't bite, but during the conversation, the Judge passes along that his true identity is Legion. He says when Christ pushed the spirits out of a swarm of enchanted hogs, they called themselves Legion. Now, there's one small problem with that storyline. Christ didn't get the demons out of the hogs. He put them in the hogs. So the question is he lying? Is he telling the story wrong just to get Frank upset, to make sure he's paying attention? Is this just a gaffe on the part of the writers? Is there something deeper, darker, more mysterious here going on? You can draw some conclusions from the fact that he gets that simple story wrong. Maybe he's just got a different perspective from the way he sees things as being part of that pure evil. Kind of an interesting thing. Something to keep in mind. But in the end, after he gets released, he ends up going back to his farm, and the ex-con he's been using to mete out justice is upset that he would use the judicial system to get himself free, so he kills the Judge. And that's the end of the Judge. So you think, well, that's interesting. He calls himself Legion. He doesn't really, seem to get away with anything. He dies at the end, so that must be the end of the character. And then you kind of start to think, well, why did I even watch this episode then? If this guy was so cool and then he disappears. He leaves this note to Frank. It probably doesn't show up very well on the screen, but it just says, "Sorry to have missed you. Another time? Question mark? Another time? What do you mean another time? This guy's dead. How is he possibly going to come back for another episode?" And then you start thinking about the police. They're really ineffective in this episode. The bad guys are always one step ahead. They have to wait for the bad guys to do something for them to follow up. They can never get some sort of lead or some sort of insight, which takes them further ahead, which allows them to set a trap or anything. They just basically get strung along through the entire thing, and you're kind of thinking, well, that's really kind of a bad mystery. And then you got Catherine and her whole role in this episode is she kind of pops up and says, "Hey, I got a friend who got his tongue cut off. You might want to check that out," or something. Like, whatever. She's like barely there. So they're still testing the waters in the episode, trying to figure out exactly where all these roles are supposed to fit and what people are supposed to be doing. You even get an appearance from CCH Pounder here, who appears as another member of the Millennium Group. And, she comes in and she does some investigating and then she leaves. And she's a cool character. She's a great actress. But again, like, what is she really there to accomplish in the episode? And then you kind of start getting mad and you're thinking, well, why am I investing so much time in the... Oh, see, it's later on in the season. Several episodes later, when Legion reappears, this time as Lucy Butler. And then you start to put some of the pieces together on what's really happening. When this guy's talking about Legion and demons and evil, he's not playing around. He's actually being truthful. And when he reappears as Lucy Butler, well, you know what? We're going to save that for next time. Because we're going to start running through all the episodes where Legion makes an appearance. We're going to start running down some of the traits, some of the characteristics, and really, what is Legion trying to accomplish? And what does it say about us? What does it say about Millennium? And what does it say about Frank Black? Now, folks, keep in mind that this is coming to you from the Pop Culture Network, where I'm from, but also BackToFrankBlack.com. Back to Frank Black is putting out a new book called Back to Frank Black. And this book is going to include essays and illustrations all about Frank Black, the Millennium Group, and the TV show Millennium. And it's not like some fan fiction. It's not some, cheaply published thing you're going to get off like Amazon Ego Printing or something like that. This is a full-on book full of really well-written articles and essays. And you've even got information here written for the book from guys like Chris Carter, Lance Henriksen, and even Frank Spotnitz. So you guys, if you're a fan of 1013 Productions, if you're a fan of Millennium, if you just love the idea of good versus evil, like all of that kind of stuff, you got to make sure you get a copy of Back to Frank Black when it hits presses. Hopefully, maybe I can get an early copy. Think that might be possible? No? No? Okay, well, I tried. All right, guys, stay tuned, and next time, we're going to tackle more about Legion.